Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's Maurice back again with another video. And I know that we had our recent release of Mutant Genesis, and I've had a couple of weeks. Well, I ain't gonna lie to you. It's been probably been a week of time that I've had to actually play the game, and I really like Mutant Genesis so far. There's a few things I'm going to talk about with this expansion. I'm just going to, give my thoughts on the five villains, on the two heroes that come with it, and kind of talk about Cyclops and Jean Grey as well, since they were all released in the same day. So I'll just lump them all in as one expansion, so to speak, and just kind of give my thoughts on some of the speculation that was going around Mutant Genesis. Is it worth the hype? Are the X-Men showing up in this game compared to other heroes? So in this one, first I'm going to talk about the villains. So with Sabretooth, I think that he is a standout villain in this box for me. I think that his challenge is extremely unique compared to any other villain in the game, which automatically makes him one of the most unique villains in this box. I think that the healing factor that he have is, as one of his abilities is super cool. The idea of you having to protect Senator Kelly from Sabretooth feels like Sabretooth is hunting this man down. You're trying to, because initially you have Senator Kelly that's attached to a side scheme, and the longer he's on that side scheme, the more damage he takes. And he only have 9 health, and he takes damage depending on how much threat is on that side scheme. So you're trying to get rid of that side scheme, and when he comes into the player area, if you take any undefended attacks, that damage goes to him. So it's super easy for him to die. And I mean, thematically, it just makes a lot of sense. This is one of the most thematic villains that's in the game. He plays extremely well. He is extremely tough. This is the toughest um, first villain in the big box, like hands down. Like Crossbones is a close second, in my opinion. Um, But with Sabretooth, with this coming out of the box, I think this big box expansion was definitely geared towards some of the more experienced players, and I'll get to that later on in the review. But Sabretooth instantly is one of my favorite villains to play against. It is a kind of a grind because he can heal so much, and he heals even more as you go through expert and standard because they have those higher boost icons. But Sabretooth is he's so much fun to play against. He was so fun for me to go through and try to learn and how to defeat him. Yeah, I enjoy him a lot. He's definitely rose up the ranks for me with the villain. So yeah, that was Sabretooth. He's so much fun. And then we get these Sentinels, and the Sentinels remind me a lot of not Zola, Taskmaster, where you have these side schemes that have come out, and they have an ally attached to it, and once you defeat it, you get that ally, and they're all X-Men. So it's super cool. I feel like this one was kind of an ode to some of the lesser known X-Men. Just showing them some love that they have this opportunity to fight alongside the X-Men and get a name out for themselves, right? So I think that this is definitely geared towards some of the comic book nerds. For those of us that just enjoy the game, that maybe aren't too familiar with X-Men outside of maybe what we've seen in the MCU or what we've seen in the cartoons. You may recognize some of them, but I think that the Sentinels themselves, unlike Sabretooth, like we've seen this somewhat before. It's a little bit more unique twist. Uh, but these Sentinels are kind of nasty. Like the ones that are minions that you draw into, they can cause some problems. So you definitely would like some minion slaying going on here. But I think that this one was fine. It wasn't nearly as difficult as Sabretooth. I think that people will enjoy this going through the campaign. Like it'll be fine. You get the opportunity to play with Jubilee. So there's a side scheme. I think it's called Mutants at the Mall, where once you defeat it, you flip it over and it turns into a Jubilee card, and she'll bounce back and forth between the first player, and she have an action where you can drop or spend a lightning resource, and she'll deal 2 damage to an enemy. So it's nice to have some of that supplemental damage, especially if you have a deck that's built around a lot of lightnings, or if you have a card left over, you're not sure what to do with it. It's nice to have that option, especially if you're playing with Cyclops and you've already used your uh, your optic blast, and then you got another 2 damage right there. It's a 1 for 2, so it's not the most efficient damage, but it's something. Especially when these villains got some nasty HP. It's kind of crazy, but the Sentinels were fine. Like it wasn't anything too crazy. But they do have that one side scheme that's a part of a modular set that's supposed to be played with this particular scenario called Operation Lockdown, I think. And what it does is if you defend with an ally and that ally is defeated, you put that card under that particular side scheme, and on the main scheme, it lets you know that that side scheme is permanent, so you can't get rid of it. So once you have a card that's under there, that's it. Like you lose that card for the duration of the game. And if you have X amount of cards under there, which is three plus the amount of players that's there. So one player, you have 4 cards. 2 players, 5 cards. Then that's another lose condition that comes to the game, and I think that kind of takes away that chump blocking that can happen, which is tough, especially with some of these Sentinels that's in this game. The minions in this one are crazy, like almost Galaxy's most wanted level in terms of beefiness and effectiveness that they have out on the board. So depending on your luck with the draw of the encounter deck, I think that this one you could probably get away with just running through it pretty quickly. But it's a tough one. It's one that can get you off guard for sure. Then the third one is Master Mold, and this dude is definitely like Zola 2.0, and he plays a lot like him. He don't have the retaliate like Zola did, but his minions are way more atrocious than what you were dealing with Zola, right? Because with Zola, you had like the Biomutant, which it was a 1/1, attacking the scheme, 4 health, come in with toughness. And then you had the Berserker, which was 0 scheme, 3 attack. And I think it had quick strike. And then the other one, can't remember the name of it, but it would come in and you would have to put an attachment on it. And this one had a similar gambit to that, where you're you're playing against a ton of minions. Master Mode is trying to draw all of these Sentinels to distract you from his plan, and it's tough. Like it's him raining down a ton of minions on you is kind of crazy. I think what makes this one bearable is he has a low amount of hit points, right? So if you get an overkill and then another hard attack, you're already halfway through beating him, right? So I think his first stage is like 12 hit points. His second stage is 14 hit points. I think his third stage is somewhere between 16 and 18. So he's on the lower end of it. So there is an opportunity. Once you're not dealing with guard, or if you're just dealing a ton of excess damage, overkill damage, then you can get him off the table pretty quickly. But it's hard getting to that point because he's calling down so many Sentinels to go up against you. Because every time he schemes, he doesn't get a boost card. He'll scheme against you for one, and then you have to go through and discard cards until you draw a Sentinel, and it's so it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't situation on standing up with them. So I'm not a huge fan of rush attacks, but that's a that's a viable strategy against him because of that low amount of hit points that he have, and you almost have to do it unless you're struggling with dealing with those minions. So he was a tough one for me, and it took a second to finally get around to getting him, but he was rough. The next one is the Brotherhood, and this one was kind of cool, where you have a few locations that can make up the main scheme. So you choose a couple of locations, and they each have different abilities, or well, not abilities, but different um, constant effects, similar to like storms. If you've seen storm cards, where she have those different environments in play, um, each of the different locations have a different effect that's going on, and then you randomly select a couple of the two of the brotherhoods, so you choose between Avalanche, Toad, Pyro, and Blob, and then you go up against them, and then you have several minions with including those Brotherhood individuals, and then you've got Mystique that's coming around, and Mystique is also in the Sabretooth uh, scenario as well, and she's pretty tough. She brings a little hint of Mysterio to the table. She's got a pretty nasty minion, well, which is herself, no, of course, but it has 9 hit points. She comes in with toughness, I believe, and then her cards, you have to shuffle them into your deck, and then when you draw into them, they automatically have an effect, and then it's kind of a dead card in your hand. So uh, she takes away your hand size, so to speak, and are doing terrible things. And her cards have surge, so it's just it can be a nightmare. But I played this with both CN Spartan and Brant at Step Into the Portal, so you can check that out on their site if you want to see us go through and play. I got the opportunity to play Spectrum Aggression on that one, so that was a lot of fun. But this one is super cool, kind of laid back compared to the rest of the villains in this game, because they're disgusting. But the Brotherhood were fun. Like it kind of broke out of the monotony of those Sentinels for a second, and got you the opportunity to play something a little different with the environments, and have something that affects everybody at the table, right, and not just you. So I think that this one was cool. This one was one of my better experiences within this set. And then you have Magneto, the big boss, and this one is a really good big boss, because you can't rush him down because of his schemes, and his is similar to Hela in the sense that for him, he have he's pretty beefy, so I think his level 1 is like 18 per person. So I always play two handed, so I had 36 to take down that first one, and he has a threshold with he's got these schemes that are set aside, and one of them comes into play, and it'll let you know that he can only sustain so much damage, so you can only damage him maybe 12 up until you get rid of it. So at most, with him being at 36, the most you can bring him down is 24 until you get rid of that side scheme. You get rid of that side scheme, it flips over, and then it'll give you a little bit more cushion, and then you get rid of that, and then it brings in another side scheme, and it brings down that threshold again up until you get rid of it, and then when you get rid of it, it becomes an attachment to him, which gives it removes the steady from him, because he starts the game with steady, but it gets rid of steady, which is beautiful, because now you can just stun him or confuse him with just one, and not having to do it twice, to be able to stun him, which is pretty effective, because he also has magnetic counters, where every time he attacks you, he puts a magnetic counter on the main scheme. And after you put a counter on the main scheme, you check it, and then if there's more than, I want to say, three, if there's three or more, then you have to discard cards until a magnetic card come out, put it into play, and then remove the three. And those cards can get kind of nasty. Some of them exhaust your hero. Some of them do damage. Some of them confuse you, stun you. So it's a grueling grind. You have to kind of buckle down and deal with those sentinels that come. He got his own sentinels, but they're not as bad. The problem is he can turn them into like a what's that card? Toe to toe. Where you it's a one cost, somebody attack you, and then you deal 5 damage back. But it's like you don't get the chance to attack back. You just gotta take that damage. So it'll remove the sentinel, but you take 5 damage for it, right? And that's tough for a lot of heroes in this game. where especially the ones we are using in the game because I mean Cyclops is what 10 hit points, Jean Grey is 9, Shadowcat is 9, and Colossus is 14. So you know that's a lot of damage regardless of who you're throwing that up against, right? So yeah, he's tough. I like him as a final boss because he's not Ronin level hard. Um, I put him up there with like low key in terms of like annoyance. He's an annoying villain to go up against, but I did have fun playing against him. I think that man, I think that he is challenging enough to where you're not beating your head up against the wall trying to figure him out. But I also don't think you're having this terrible time trying to figure him out either. So I think he's that right balance of difficulty to fun, especially for a final boss. I think that that's just one of the cooler parts of this box is I feel like a lot of it you're not banging your head up against the wall trying to figure it out. I do think Sabretooth is tough right out the jump, but that's I kind of wanted to talk about this now, where a lot of people were speculating or at least hoping that this would be a new opportunity to bring in new people. And I'll say this box is definitely not for new people. I think there's a lot of interactions you have to understand, a lot of the different rules, interactions, keywords that you have to understand going into this box. This is not an easy box to go through and play. There are a lot of situations you can find yourself in, even with the if you got every card in this game, you're still going to struggle in one form or another. So this, I wouldn't, I wouldn't advise somebody to buy the core box and then buy this one right behind it. It'll run you away from the game because Sabretooth alone to start off with is crazy. Like I think that villain being the first one, you definitely need some experience with this game because it could run some people off. Albeit, I do think that this is one of the better expansions. I will put this top two. You all, if you've seen my list, you can go back and check it out. How I rank the expansions. Galaxy's Most Wanted is my favorite because I like the uniqueness of it, and this one is right there with it. My opinion. I think that this one I don't particularly play the campaigns, but I did look through the campaign cards and they were really cool. I like the idea of having like the roles and how those different cards can affect it, and how you can have those different side schemes that can turn into um, things that can help you out in the future. So, or during that particular game. So, I think that with the campaign, I don't have much to say about it because I haven't played technically through a campaign. I've only done I've only went through the villains, so I think that this one had. If you're looking for a challenge, this one will give you that without even trying. I think that it is an amazing time to sit down and try to deck build. Um, yeah, it's just phenomenal. And then with the two heroes that come with it, Colossus and Shadowcat. I think Shadowcat is the biggest surprise for me because when they first released her details on the Fantasy Flight website, I wasn't too impressed with her. But now that I got the opportunity to play with her, I think she is one of the more fun ones straight out of the box that you can play. I think her precon is phenomenal. Um, Colossus, I wasn't too big on him at first, but once I finally understood his engine and see how to go, like he's fine. I don't see him being one that I'll play a lot, um, which is sad because I typically like the 14 hit point and up heroes. Like I find a lot of fun deck building with them, but with him, like I just don't have the fervor like I do with the. Like I 100% still would rather play Hulk, but I think Colossus has a cool design, with manipulating those tough statuses, and when you can get the right cards on the field, I think that he can just take off at just doing a lot of damage. So he is definitely a build kind of hero which fits my lane, but like I've got to see his kit and I feel like that's all he have to offer. There may be somebody that'll change my mind with, a crazy deck or just playing him differently than what his deck try, what his kit try to ask of you. Um, that could change my mind, but he's fine. He's okay. Phoenix, I think her pre-con is the worst. Um, Almost like Adam Warlock bad for me, but I think she has a lot of upside with the minion manipulation, with the form changing from restrained to unleashed. It's kind of cool where you start off with a lot of thwarting, so you're trying to manage the board state, and then when you get that opportunity to remove those counters to unleash, a lot of her the cards in her kit allows her to be able to do a little extra as a kicker for being in unleashed form. But it's that Dark Phoenix Nemesis set she got. Oh my goodness, that it's ridiculous. It's having a whole new villain on the table, man. It's crazy. When it comes out, it changes everything. But I like that being under the constant fear of that happening in the game. I think her just being in the game makes things automatically exciting because of the opportunity of Dark Phoenix coming out and y'all having to deal with it and having another lose condition because of her side scheme. Oh, she's crazy. And then Cyclops. I really enjoy Cyclops. He's my favorite out of all of them so far. I love the idea of just putting down these tactic upgrades on allies, on the villain, on minions, and allowing those to be able to affect the game. Like he feels like a leader out there, and he got that opportunity to take first player phase every single turn for him to set the board up for everybody to knock him down, right? So I'm having a lot of fun. I wish his full blast was more opportunistic, but it's not. That's probably my biggest downside with him. But yeah, that's uh, outside of that, I thoroughly enjoy him. He's my most played one, so I have a lot of fun with him in leadership and aggression. But yeah, just to kind of wrap it up, I think that this one is definitely one of the better. Uh, this is one of the better expansions for this game. I don't recommend it to somebody that's a newcomer. As excited as you may be for X Men, if you want to buy it, I'm not going to stop you. If you just want to get the X Men and then, kind of work your way up to going up against them, I'm not saying that it's impossible, but I do think it's kind of tough, straight out of the gate. If this is what brings you to the game, it might disappoint you because of how hard it is, and I'd rather not run people off from this game because I do think it's phenomenal. But I know that with X Men coming and people were hoping, more eyes will come to this game, and I think that more have. I just hope that people don't run away from it. But all in all, this one is definitely um, a top two expansion for me so far. Magneto is a really good big boss. Sabretooth is a top three villain in this game for me already. I just had so much fun playing him. I struggled against him, but it was just fun figuring him out, and I had a lot of fun in both winning and losing against him. So um, yeah, it's super good, man. I do enjoy it. Um, I'm not too fond of the Sentinels in Master Mode, but like they're good. Um, I think that they take a different take on previous villains that we've seen, and they're fine. Uh, but I think that the uniqueness of Sabretooth really carries this box. I think Magneto having those different side schemes and kind of slowing down the game makes it pretty interesting. The Brotherhood was just a fun time. That's something that you can just throw down and just have fun. Um, yeah, this is a really good box. Let me know what y'all think about it. If there's anything you um that that you didn't agree with me on, or that you agree with me on, I'd love to hear it. Drop some comments down there and let me know what you think. If I'm just tripping, then let me know. But I really enjoyed this box a lot. I'm looking to play with through the campaign with Descry and CN Spartan one of these days. So I'm excited for that. I rarely play campaigns, so this will be kind of a cool experience. But thank you for your time and hope you have a wonderful day.